What's up everyone, this is Justin from Make Supply, and in this video tutorial we're making the passport cover. If you'd like to purchase this template, it is available for instant digital download in the Make Supply Etsy store, which is linked below. If you do not wish to purchase this template, we invite you to just follow along the build process. Alright, let's take inventory for this passport cover project. Start with the template. The template you download, it'll come on 3 pieces of paper. Tried to get it on the 2, but with 8.5 by 11 there's just not enough space to get all 3 pieces onto one, so it has to be 3. And there's 4 pieces to the template. I printed this out on 110-pound cardstock from Staples. The leather we'll be using is called Sunset Oil Tan. This is from, so it's a little bit different than what I normally use. This is from Thoroughbred Leather. They don't have a website, so it's a little hard to order, but I'll give you the information in the blog post below to how you can order this leather. It's really nice. It has a nice rustic look, a nice sturdy feel. It's not a veg tan leather. This is a chrome tan. So we will be addressing the edges a little bit differently in this project. But I do, it's a good price. I highly recommend it if you're into this type of look. Standard cast characters for the tools. Number 2 X-Acto knife, metal cork back ruler, piece of sandpaper, wing divider for marking my edges, CS Osborne scratch awl, craft tool 3mm diamond stitching chisels, 4-prong and 2-prong. Some thread nippers to cut my thread. I always use them in the video and then I never put them in the inventory, so they make their debut. This is main thread chestnut waxed polycord. This is the 0.40 size. Normally I order 0.3 or 0.35. I don't know why I ordered 4. I think this is a little too thick, so if you're going to order main thread, I would stick with the 0.30 or the 0.35. But since I have it, I'll use it. Block of beeswax with 2 Tandy stitching needles, rubber cement, and rubber mallet for using the chisels. And this is how we'll be doing our edges in this project. Since this is a chrome tan leather, oil tan just means chrome tan. We're going to address them a little bit differently. You can, if you want, try to burnish it like it's a veg tan leather, but usually it doesn't work. It might put a nice little gloss on there, but it's not a real effective burnish like it is on a veg tan. So your options are usually to paint the edges or just leave them as they are. So I'm going to paint them because I don't know if you can see this from the camera over there, but this dye is not struck through all the way, so it has this light colored edge, and I don't want that edge. I just think it doesn't look good when everything else is this darker brown and you have this light edge like this. So we're going to use Tandy edge paint. This is dark brown, and it comes in a, I don't even know if this is a cord, I guess, something like that. And then this is a craft tool edge. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but you roll it along the edge with the paint onto the edge of your leather, and we're going to use that. If you're doing this with a veg tan, you can just swap out burnishing on the steps that I am painting. Okay, so I'm going to cut out these 4 pieces, and then we will come back and trace it onto our leather and get started. Okay, so I just went ahead and cut out all 4 pieces of the template. I'll kind of line it up here just to see what we're working with. So you'll have your main body panel on the left hand side, then it goes to the left bottom panel. Still on the left hand side, the card slot goes on top of there. And then the right bottom panel, which has a straight edge, goes on the right. And then that's what our end product will look like. I forgot to mention in the inventory section of this video that at this moment I don't have an acrylic version, but pretty soon after I'll have an acrylic version of this template if you're interested. So I'm going to, oh yeah, just to note this marking on the card slot. So when we put this together, this is going to be sewn to the left bottom panel. So when you're tracing this card slot, which we'll do here, onto the leather, make sure you mark the very last hole, which is a little bit larger than the rest of these little dots. And then you can just pick a couple along the way here. Just mark through with your scratch-awl, so then when we have the leather, we'll trace this line here just to give it a straight line for us to mark our stitching. So I'm going to just trace this one on here just to show you what we're doing, and then off camera I'll just trace the rest of them and cut them out, just to save some time in the video. So let's do that. Alright, take my card slot, place it on my leather. And I'm just tracing around with my scratch-awl. Okay, so I did the outside. Now here's where I'm going to just take the scratch-awl, push through that last hole there, just to mark where our stitching will end. And then just a couple of these along the way. You don't have to mark all of them, obviously. Okay, so now we will have, we can take the ruler, line up these dots, and just mark a line from the lip of the card slot all the way to that last hole, and that'll be our stitching line. So what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and trace all these on here, cut them all out. We'll come back and we'll continue. Okay, so I just finished cutting out all the pieces. Let's see what we got here. And again, we'll just line them up just to show what we're working with. Be like that. And then that one will be like that. And your passport goes in this side. Okay, so this is the part where we have to finish the inside edges of these card slots, or these panels, sorry, because they won't be accessible once we sew everything together. So, if you're using a veg tan leather, this is where you'll burnish your inside edges. 1, 2, 3. Since I'm using this chrome tan, I'm going to paint them. So I'm going to put one layer on, one layer of paint on here, and then turn off the video, let it dry. I'll probably put another layer on, and then we will come back and continue. So let's do that. A little messy there, kind of got some on the edge, but if you act quickly you can get it off. Okay, that's the first one. Second one, and the last one here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is let these dry. It usually takes a couple of minutes. And then I'm going to take the sandpaper and just lightly scuff it up. Scuff up that first layer, repeat that process, put another layer on, let it dry again, and then we'll come back and continue. Okay, so I let that paint dry, and then I sanded it down a little bit, went over with another layer, and then kind of just polished it up with the edge of another piece of leather scrap. And that'll be good for now. I mean, edge painting is, you know, it has its own set of tools. There's, you know, electric heat tools that you can really pare down this edge to look real nice. It's used a lot in like the high-end European look. Not part of this, you know, it's not the purpose of this video, so we'll just continue on. So now we are going to put the card slot on top of the left bottom panel, glue it down, and then we will mark our holes, punch our holes, and stitch that portion. So let's do that now. I will first find my rubber cement. Light coat of rubber cement around the edge. Same on this side. It's about a ½ inch between the edge of the card slot and the top, so make sure you don't go all the way up to the top with the cement. Cool. Give that a second to dry. So while we're doing that, we might as well just keep going. We will glue down the right panel to the body. Again, light coat of rubber cement around the edge. And on this side, I'm kind of just going to guess where to start here. Right about there. Okay. Since this is a flesh side to flesh side glue, it'll glue down a little easier. When you put the cement on the grain side, it needs a little bit of time to dry before you attach it. Okay, so So we'll mark that down. If you want to use, I use this grid mat. Line it up. You can line up your front edges on the measurement. I'm getting rubber cement everywhere. Cool. Okay, so let's put that off to the side for a minute. Now we will put this down on here. Looks good. Okay, so I'm gonna let that sit for a sec. Cool. So, like I said in the inventory, I'm gonna use these Craftsol 3mm. So let me see what we're working with here. Okay. So I'm going to start at the bottom hole that we marked and then walk my way up with hand pressure to mark my holes. Cool. So this is going to go from here up, and it's going to wrap around the lip there. So we have our holes marked. Okay, so I'm going to go off camera and punch through these holes that we just made, and then come back. Okay, I went ahead and punched my holes through. See that there? Started at the bottom one, went up, went one past the lip there. So now I'm going to stitch this down. I'm going to start on the second hole, backstitch 1, come back, end here, backstitch 2, and then we will come back and continue on. Alright, so I went ahead and stitched that down. And now I have the thread coming out the back. I'm going to cut it off. Set these down a little bit. Just do this to flatten my stitches, depending on what kind of thread you're using. This poly cord, you can flatten it down pretty nice. So there we go. Yeah, it's a little. I would definitely choose a thinner profile thread. It's a little. It's very rustic. I'll just say that. Okay. So let's go on to the next step, which will be gluing this down to here. Okay. Okay. Give some pressure on that to get it down. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry for a second, come back, and we will continue on by marking our stitch and groove, and we're actually gonna stitch around the whole thing. So we're gonna mark our stitch and groove, mark our holes, and get this thing put together. Okay, gave that a second to dry. So now we want to inspect our alignment. So make sure, you know, there's no overhanging parts or nothing's crooked. This looks decent. If there are, you know, you can just trim or so. I'm gonna sand, do a rough sand around the whole thing. This side should be a little bit easier. There's only 2 layers. Okay, now it's time to mark our stitching groove. Grab your edge groover or your wing divider, which is what I'll be using. I'm going to use an 1/8 inch margin. Okay, so I'm going to do one on the inside and one on the outside. Since we're going to be stitching over the this part, you know, just do the hole all the way around. Cool. And on the outside. So we will be punching from the outside of this cover, and this will be the inside. If you've ever seen any of my other videos, like the bifold wallet, or even the last one I did, I usually, if I'm punching through more than 2 layers, I will punch the first 2 layers and then finish through the last. But the way this is constructed, I couldn't do that because we had to attach this portion first. So just gonna have to punch through all 3 at first. So let's do this. Now, how do I want to do this? So you pick your starting point. Being that we're going all the way around, I like to pick somewhere in the bottom corner. So passport. You know, if your passport's going in like this, you know, somewhere around the bottom back corner is a good place to start. So now that I have that, turn it over. So I'm just going to put it right here. And then I'm going to go around with hand pressure. Probably fast forward this part until I get to the end. I gotta learn how to do speed up my video for these sections. Cool. So I marked all my holes all the way around, and they lined up perfect. So just a little tip. The reason I use these 3mm all the time is because this is 3mm, 1/8 of an inch spacing. So obviously any project that you have measurements that are like perfect, you know, in increments of 1/8 or anything like that, it'll usually always line up. So that's why I always use these 3mm ones. So now I'm going to go ahead and punch all these holes off camera, come back, and then we'll see where we're at. Okay, so I just finished punching all the holes, the outside and the inside. Okay, so at this point I'm going to go stitch this thing up. Again, I'm going to start somewhere down here, go up all the way around, come back. This will be the outside. And then when I'm done, we'll come back and we will continue on and paint these edges and we'll be done. Okay, just finished stitching that up. That was a marathon of hand stitching. I don't do a whole lot of hand stitching other than when I do these tutorials anymore, so it really put me back in the groove there. Okay, so here's the back, here's the inside, and here's my thread. So I'm just trim this off. Cool. And let's see what we're working with here. And that was my cat running up the steps. Alright, so now, like I do in all my videos, I'm going to go around just sanding these edges. This is getting all the glue and helping align it a little bit more, smoothing them out. Cool. Alright, so at this stage, if you are using veg tan and you're going to do your beveling and you're going to bevel and then you're going to burnish. Again, since I'm doing this with an oil tan leather, I'm going to paint again. So I am going to do that now. I will probably speed up this portion of the video in editing if I can figure out how to do it. So basically this get a whole bunch of paint on there and dab it on. Okay, it's a little bit hard to hold once you painted all the edges. So I put one layer on and got it everywhere. I'm going to let this dry and then come back and we will continue on. Okay, so I painted the edge, let it dry, used some sandpaper, roughed it up, painted again, let it dry, and then I went over it lightly with just an extra piece of leather, smooth out some of the edges, shine it up a little bit. So at this point we are done. Check out our passport holder. And let's throw it in here. Passport goes in the right hand side, and then you have some card slots here, and I think if I can find another card. Of course not. So you have the one card slot, the other card slot, and then you have a section under here for folded cash or anything else you want to throw under there. So this will conclude the passport cover build along tutorial. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments section of the YouTube video, the blog post, email me directly, leave it on the Facebook page for Make Supply, whatever works. Hope you enjoyed.